Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of September 6th through the 12th, and we've got a new moon kicking off the week, so I'm trying something new here. As you can see, it's not my face in the video. Here's my hand, but I'm actually showing you guys a chart today. This is a chart of the new moon. It's actually set for Washington, D.C., but you can set it for whatever time zone or city you're in, and you will get the same pattern as far as where all the planets are in relation to one another in the aspects and the signs that they're in, but the houses are going to change. So this is just the one for Washington, D.C., because I reside in the United States. So, but what's important is that, just seeing, here we are at our new moon right here, the sun-moon conjunction. And I can just use this chart kind of show you guys some of the aspects that are going on that I'm talking about too, so that you don't have to just see my face, which is still here. There I am. But I think this would be a little bit more interesting for the people who are watching on the YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're doing a podcast, you're not seeing my face anyway. So this week, really dynamic start to the week with this new moon in Virgo. There's a lot of energy packed in to Monday today, and that will influence this whole new moon cycle. But it's a lot of dynamic energy, and yet it's still grounded because we have this new moon in an earth sign in Virgo. So there's a chance this week and this new moon cycle this next month to really get a new start at things that we're really going to be into ourselves, show our creative side, our individual side, and be able to kind of like get into the detailed, more practical parts of that equation, not just some abstractions or ideas and stuff. And that being said, it's very interesting because I think we could all use that. The last 2 or 3 weeks, the astrological energy has just been like incredibly intense, and it's obviously in people's lives, both individually and then collectively on the planet. The human race is definitely being under an incredible amount of stress the last few weeks, and that having a lot to do with the Pluto Eris square perfecting, Uranus going retrograde, with the Saturn Uranus square really being ticked, and then all these planets getting in between them and really triggering that energy. And so we've gone through a real lot. There's been a lot of intense stories. We've had a hurricane, incredible fires. We've had vaccinations that are failing as far as being able to keep the COVID under control. We have had a spike in suicides. And I know on individual levels, everybody is also experiencing a lot of stress in their lives. And once again, all about that Saturn Uranus square, which has been in effect, and there it is, the Saturn and Uranus here squaring one another. They're about 7 degrees apart now, but still squaring one another, definitely within orb. And that is the aspect. But it also, here's your Pluto squaring. It's squaring Eris, and I don't have Eris in the chart, but Eris would be right about here in the first house, close to this here. So that energy, those two energies have really combined to kind of make the perfect storm the last 2 or 3 weeks. And there's our Pallas and Neptune conjunction 2. Those energies have really, really coalesced strong. And then you can see also the Chiron in between Saturn and Uranus. So like whenever the Saturn-Uranus square gets triggered, Chiron is also being triggered too. So like all that energy together has just been the perfect storm the last 2 or 3 weeks to really reach like, you know, a real heavy, intense energies coming up to the surface of things that we're all having to deal with, been brought out into the light by that full moon 2 weeks ago at the critical 29th degree of Aquarius. So now we're ready for something new, right? So we got this new moon in Virgo going on. So first of all, moon in Virgo is like ready to like roll up its sleeves at, you know, what it's looking at and try to come up with some kind of procedure, some kind of system that works. So like that's what when the moon is in Virgo and feeling triggered emotionally, what we all want to do at that point is come up with some kind of system or procedure that we know is going to work, that's going to lead us to where we want to go. So it's a very like service oriented, work oriented energy. Now that, you know, the thing about Virgo, and many of you know, is that, you know, it also gets us into a judgmental or critical mind. So when we start projecting that onto others, that's when the problem can come up with Virgo energy, is when we get hypercritical and start criticizing those around us. So, but really, you know, in this time of like great change and chaos and transformation, this new moon is in Virgo is looking for a new way, a new book of rules, a new procedure to deal with all this intense energy. So it's very interesting. Here's our new moon here. You can see the moon and sun conjunct one another in Virgo, and you know, Mars not really conjunct them, but also in Virgo too. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But what's interesting here is this very, very tight trine to the degree. Look at how close that is. 1439 Uranus in Taurus retrograde. 1438 is where the new moon is. So we've got almost to the exact minute a trine between the new moon and Uranus. And that is a really good news, because what that means is that energy is flowing for innovation right now, for feeding change, and people are ready for it, and therefore that energy should start to break and move forward. And Uranus is very dynamic energy, you know, it's gonna bring in each individual's part or gift that they have to this like new moon energy, and it gives us a chance, you know, to basically shine with something that we are individually good at. So like and here's the thing too, this is the kind of energy that to me gives us a leap of faith. This energy and is like, we're ready, we've gotten the insights, we've gotten the knowledge, we've gotten a lot of different stuff that we've in the last few weeks to mull over and bring us to a new level of consciousness. And now we're ready to take some kind of leap of faith. And what's interesting about it too is because it's in earth signs, it will be a measured leap of faith, you know? So that to me is, you know, and especially with the Virgo energy, it'll be really a carefully measured leap of faith here, and it will bring us a chance to learn new things about ourselves, about both our emotional self and our will self, our ego self. It will bring us, like Uranus is going to give us a very flowing download of new energy, and will give us new ways of looking at ourselves, looking at our emotions, and looking at the world, and just, wanting us to also bring out an honest, creative expression of who we truly are. And everything lately has been helping us. The knowledge we've been getting lately will help us find what that is. But it's, once again, it's this Uranus energy, so it's looking for alternatives. The moon going into Uranus gets really excited emotionally by new insights, by new knowledge, by new wisdom. So that really gives us like a zest for life, is a really good way to say it. Like, really makes us like really want to engage strongly in life. And it is like, you can see the moon's also square the nodes right now too. So this is a very destined karmic thing. It's a stress point because we're on the square, but it's also the kind of stress that makes us want to take action and really start moving forward. So very, very interesting. And even going into eventually an opposition to that Neptune palace. But really, this is what is so, the orb of this is so tight. And with the moon, really, your orbs, it changes quickly. So, when you get an orb that's that far out, it's nowhere near the effect you're going to feel when something's that tight. Now, what's interesting, too, is Mercury's condition, because the ruler of this chart, the ruler of this new moon, I should say, is Mercury. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So we're going to look at Mercury, too, over here in Libra, right? And what's interesting about Mercury right now is it's actually in a grand trine, which is another nice flowing energy. You'll see it's trining Saturn, which I talked about last week. If you remember, I was saying that was actually the most beneficial aspect that was going on last week, this Mercury-Saturn trine. So that's still in effect. It is separating, but it's also trining back to the North Node Sirius conjunction that I talked about last week. And remember, so that was all this stuff about finding new ways to nurture ourselves, find resources in our local areas, and really, getting to work on that. So there's a really good flow with this too. So that is pushing into this new moon, that that's where maybe a lot of these new starts will be found, is like being able to take care of some of our basic needs in local areas, and really, doing what's required to do that. But there's this grand trine going on, which is a great flow. It's in air, so it's a lot about sharing ideas again, and, the knowledge and stuff of how do we create something new? Well, everybody can bring something to the pot with their knowledge and share that information. So it's interesting on that level. And then, Mercury's doing a couple other things too. It's also at the same time sesquiquadrating Jupiter, which is over here. And you can see there's this red line here, Mercury sesquiquadrating. So this is showing there are a lot of big plans and ideas. We do have a lot of ambition and ideas and these plans of new things that we want to do, but they're not quite completely ready to be developed yet. And then the other thing that's really interesting, and it perfects tomorrow on Tuesday, and it was something I would have talked about separately even, is Mercury is opposite Chiron. It's tight. You see that? So it's going to be perfecting tomorrow on Tuesday. And that is really a real interesting handoff to the story of the last couple weeks of what have we learned from all the information, much of it painful, that has come up in the last couple weeks. And this Mercury Chiron is all about processing that. It's there can be a lot of painful words and information that was disclosed to us over the last couple weeks, or between us and others, and especially in one-on-one relationships. But it's also helping us to learn. And so like this thing is like, what have you learned from all of that information? And like from what you've learned from that, can you like, lock that into this grand trine and do the things that you need to do in the real world now, Saturn, that will help, stabilize your resources and those around you, the Ceres and North Node. So very interesting energy this week. And to top all this off, Monday, not only has all this stuff going on with the new moon, but there's also like 3 or 4 other aspects that are really potent, positive aspects for like, the flow of things moving in a new direction and being able to learn something from what's going on and moving forward with people. The first one is Venus is exactly trine Jupiter too. So like you can see, and that's in air. So Venus trine Jupiter is actually one of the most positive aspects there is. This is like, the ability of people to get benefit from one another more than anything. And so like really like is good for relationships and like a positive attitude. Good. A lot of times it brings in money and resources and assets. So, this is like a really beneficial aspect to have in relation to this new moon, because it's imprinting like the ability of people to get along in a harmonious way and share ideas. It's like, also harmoniously, Venus in rulership in Libra and Jupiter in Aquarius, and sharing a lot of cutting edge ideas that help change our value systems, help, evolutionize our philosophies and things like that. So really, really, really positive. And then at the same time, Mars, which we talked about, is also in Virgo, in the same sign that the new moon is in a trine with Pluto. And that was once again beautiful, harmonious energy going on between 2 planets that many times can give a lot of trouble. In this case, this is like, being in 4th gear and you can pop it into overdrive or something, because the Mars Pluto, when they're in a harmonious aspect, can move energy, lots of energy, and really transform things. So this, and it gives us this very positive attitude once again about moving that energy, because right now life will respond to you reacting to the things that you've seen and you've gotten insight into these last couple of weeks, that now the new moon is really, wanting you to do something with. Once you start taking action, this trine's going to pop in and really accelerate the process, and it will be easy to transform things now. Bring us a lot of motivation. There's a lot of motivation behind this, a lot of ambition. And remember, the thing is with Pluto is you need to make sure that ambition is not self-centered, that it's like including, and with Mars you can get like that really easily, but you want to make sure that what you're doing is benefiting everyone and everything around you. So very, very dynamic energy going on the very same day of the new moon. So this is like just going to be imprinted into the full moon. And this, this gives us the desire, this can give us long-lasting energy to really push what we do now, this Mars Pluto trine, that we can be in it for the long haul and really, like a sustained effort, is a good way to say it. What's interesting too, what's going on here too, and this one's really interesting because, I probably should have put Eris in the chart. Let me see if I can do that for us right now. Let's see. We want to look at displayed points, I believe, and let's see. the goddess of chaos, there she is, into our chart. And let's see, and there she is. So there's Eris in the chart now. So that I wanted to really be able to show you guys this next thing. So not only is Mercury doing the trine, or Mars, I'm sorry, Mars doing the trine to Pluto, but Mars is also, you can see this green line, is quincunxing Eris, right? And then it's also right here, I didn't draw it in, but it's also quincunxing, it's quincunxing Jupiter, and it's also quincunxing Eris. So Mars is on the midpoint of Jupiter Eris. And that is really, really interesting because, it once again is going to give a lot of energy, the Mars Jupiter, of wanting to develop things and move things forward really quickly. But what you'll notice here, and unfortunately it didn't draw it in, but you can see Eris at 24 Aries, Jupiter at 24. So there's the exact sextile between them, which I talked about in the monthly, and it goes right back with Mars here in a yod. So it's a situation showing once again where things have to develop, and we have to let things, allow kind of like fate to move us forward in order for this energy to unlock properly. So very, very, very dynamic, interesting energy going on Monday, and imprinting in this whole time period of this new moon, imprinting this energy of this chart into us, where we can really take a lot of the lessons, the intense lessons that we learned, and really get a new start and put in the dynamic energy we want to put in, work with groups that we're connected with in order to do that, and watch the flow of transformation really open up and start to move things. So this is just a really powerful time to seed something, is my point. It's really something, a really, really good time to get something moving forward on, a lot of the things that you've been feeling stuck on. It's interesting too. Let me just go quick. A couple other things I wanted to mention this week. You can see Venus is at 25, 26 degrees Libra. So by the end of the week, it's going into Scorpio. So when Venus goes into Scorpio, it's in a sign of its detriment. And, what that means is that, relationships are going to have some really intense energy come up. And it will test them. It's a very passionate kind of energy. And for certain relationships, they may not be able to handle it. It may just blow them out of the water. Especially ones that, have been already troublesome and can bring in a lot of the dark, negative side of Scorpio. Manipulation, possession, jealousy, things like that. That can be really, really intense stuff that can come up and really, end certain relationships even. It's a very tough sign for times. Venus wants to be light, it wants to be lighthearted and loving like it is in Libra. And so when it goes into Scorpio, all the heavy stuff of connecting with people through relationships starts to come to the surface and brings intense energy. And if people are not ready to transform that, then it can be this very bitter thing that can dissolve into a battle, a battle of the roses, basically. So now the positive expression of Venus going into Scorpio is to look at that stuff that's come up together, which is both person's stuff. It's not one person's stuff. There's just projection and reflection going on, and be honest and open about those things, and therefore transform the whole relationship, and it will bring it to depths that can not be met by just superficial type of relating. So it can bring a lot of trust. It can bring like reliability, stability, long-term relationships, on a romantic level, even monogamous type relationships. So it's a very intense energy for Venus to work with. Not usually the type of place she likes to be, and therefore, like, can be uncomfortable there, but at the same time can bring incredible depth to people who are working on relationship issues. And for people who are just like already at each other a lot, this can be the kind of transit through there where the relationship may not make it through it. So Venus going into Scorpio, and that will be on Friday, and it will probably go about 2-3 weeks. So be that energy. Now, the last thing I wanted to just mention again, and I had mentioned it in the monthly, this is the week of a couple of the longer term transits. One of them being Pluto here, doing a sessi quadrate to Ceres and that North Node. And that is a lot of the stuck energy we're feeling. In fact, when I looked at this, or I was thinking about this, the thought that came to me was this is a really good representation in the United States anyway of the rent eviction notice expiring, because here you have like needing your home, your hearth, and there's like this very intense energy of the possibility of many people being evicted because they don't have the money by those who are in power, the landlords and above them, and there's the sessi quadrate of not being able to do anything about it. So that's very, very, very intense energy. And it's interesting too, because it's like we still have that very active, very tight, you can see, look at only 5 minutes of time off between Eris and Pluto, and they're actually T-squaring back to that Vesta Venus conjunction right now. So this can really put people in groups even at odds with one another, like about just like the way to do things. And this can really indicate mass destruction on a large scale when you have Eris and Pluto and Vesta together like that. It's like can bring a lot of like destruction, obsessions, just paranoia, isolation that people are feeling, odd sexual kind of energies and stories that come out, things like that. So it's a very, very intense energy that I mentioned in the monthly that is also perfecting this week. And then also the other thing I mentioned in the monthly, and I briefly touched on it before, is Jupiter is exactly sextile Eris. And it's also trining that Vesta that I talked about that's squaring this. So this will kind of bring a little bit of a bomb. But I kind of started thinking on another level about the Jupiter Eris sextile, because it is a positive aspect between the two of them, and Jupiter is the greater beneficial planet. So like, what would Eris be on like a more beneficial scale? And I really got an amazing download about this in the thought processes that are out there in the universe, and so like chaos on a negative sense is a lot of the things that we're all aware of, like going on, like when a hurricane hits, that's chaos. When a fire coming through and burns towns down, that's chaos. We know that on a negative sense. But what is chaos on a positive? Like we're in this dualistic world, so there's got to be like a positive side to chaos. Well, actually, really the answer was pretty simple. It's chaos theory. And the reality is that, astrology itself really, fits right in with chaos theory. So here we are getting an opportunity maybe to engage with chaos theory in a positive way. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you understand some of the basic tenets of chaos theory, then you can understand how knowing our chart and the astrology weather can help us with, having that knowledge so that we can make better choices and direct energy in another way. So chaos theory, it says, that all things are linked together. And that's what astrology says too, that, all systems are linked together. So what does that mean? That means what chaos theory is saying is that if you have a closed system and it's in this perfect balance, right? And you just introduce the smallest little change, that creates chaos in the system. It's no longer in that perfect balance. But there's positive chaos, because the positive chaos is a feedback loop that brings change to stagnant systems and allows them to move forward. And that's what we're in right now. We are in a world right now where a lot of the systems are failing and they need a change brought into them. They need positive chaos. So this Jupiter Eris sextile will give us the opportunity to do that. And so what, some of the other theory, basic tenets of chaos theory is that a small event is linked to larger events and vice versa. So, and that once a pattern is created, it keeps repeating itself, right? And that even the smallest change somewhere, you guys probably have heard of, is the butterfly effect. Like the smallest change within the beginning of a pattern ripples out into a bigger change as it goes across the pattern. So, and then the other thing about chaos theory is that likes attract likes. So certain energies will come together within those patterns and continue to push and create a new feedback loop, a positive feedback loop. So if all of everything is influencing each other like that, like chaos theory says, then when we elicit a small change, when we have an opportunity like Jupiter sextile Eris to bring in some of our values or philosophies and elicit a small change now within ourselves and within the groups that we're associating with, then that change can ripple out. That can be the little butterfly flapping its wing. That can be the small little change that becomes the big pattern that continues to unfold. That can start bringing in more energies. Remember, once you make a decision, the universe responds to that and all things start to line up. So that's where we have positive chaos. That's where Eris, the goddess of chaos, can help us by bringing in positive changes, little changes that individuals make within a system that have that butterfly effect and start to change. And that's how astrology works too, you guys. That's how it works. It's not a Newtonian thing we can measure. But if you know what the energy is that you're working with and you elicit some small change within that, that's using the energy of astrology to make things change and be positive. No, it's not all just fate. You can use this energy of this new moon right now to create a change in your life that is like positive chaos theory and will bring a rippling change to everyone around you and eventually across the whole world. That's what this new moon can be about. That's the hard work that Virgo has to do. That's the new procedure we need to figure out for ourselves and for each other. And Mars Pluto trine wants to help. Jupiter Eris wants to help. Venus Jupiter wants to help. So there's a lot of help available. The grand trine of Mercury Saturn North Node Ceres wants to help. that really tight trine from Uranus to the new moon wants to help, we have a ripe opportunity in this time to start that ripple. So let's do it under this new moon. Let's figure out our new procedures, our new ways of doing things in our individual lives that will ripple out and make the changes that we want to see happen in the world, whatever they may be. And remember, with Pluto involved, it better involve everybody, because if it's just about you, it'll be your path of self-destruction instead of a change, great transformation that helps everyone. And right at the top up there, it's not kidding. So, all right. So that's the astrological weather report for this week. Plant those seeds. Go and do it. And next week I'll be back with next week's weather report. I'm Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. You can get me at matthuE823@gmail.com. I'm available for all kinds of readings. This is a free service I give. The best way you can pay me for this service is to please pass on the link. Remember, it's available on all kinds of podcasts. You do not have to watch the YouTube channel. If you do have the YouTube channel, please become a member, become a follower, turn your notifications on. I don't have time to social media bomb everybody, or sometimes not anybody. So it's up to you guys to be a little responsible if you want to know this information. It's also available on all kinds of podcasts. You don't need to see anything, although it's fun doing the chart for you. And just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcasts. You should be able to find it there. If you would like to give a donation, you're more than welcome to do that. My Venmo and my Zelle accounts are that same email, matthuE@gmail.com, or you can look at Matthew Lawton, Lauten is my handle, I think, too. You can find it there. And I'm also available for all kinds of readings. So remember, natal charts, know your own chart, so that you can work with your energy. Predictive readings that are just like this weather forecast this week, except it's your weather forecast for the next year. Children's charts readings, relationship charts, and all kinds of relationships, can look at them, what they mean, or if the relationship's going for a long time, the phases that it's going through now. Election charts for when you need to know the timing of doing something, the best time to start something, so to speak. Horary charts if you need the answer to some question that you just can't seem to get, that you're very emotionally involved in. And then there's also fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose. Also available for classes, lectures, things like that. Like I said, so just give me an email, matthuE823@gmail.com. And I will see you all next week. Plant those seeds.